from Heavy.com, bunch of MSG networks, an NBA Insider Scoop. How would you, don't give me the actual trade yet, because I'm going to ask you about each one, but how would you kind of rate what you saw and heard and all the reaction of Thursday's trade deadline?
Number one, I rate it as probably pretty tiring. When I look at this trading deadline, the one that was really frustrating was Kyle Lowry, particularly because there were so many people on the phone, the Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers, namely, and ultimately he stays in Toronto, at least for now. Toronto Raptors legend. You could put him up on that Mount Rushmore in Toronto with Vince Carter, Kawhi Leonard, what have you, but that was probably the biggest one. And the other addition is Lonzo Ball, who also stays in his respective team, the New Orleans Pelicans. The Chicago Bulls were on the phone. The New York Knicks were on the phone. So, there were a lot of moving pieces with both of those moves, but there were some great moves that happened.
Scoop, let's start with Kyle Lowry then. Why didn't this happen? And I know journalistically, terrible way to do this, but I'm going to ask you two questions. Why didn't it happen? And is Kyle Lowry happy that he's still in Toronto?
I'll go to your second question first. Kyle Lowry is happy to be in Toronto. He's publicly said that, that's the place where he's really grown as a person. He's won a championship in 2019, beating the Golden State Warriors and what have you. But as far as what the holding point was, realistically is one, the Miami Heat were reluctant to move Tyler Hero. Listen, I was in Oklahoma the day that Russell Westbrook was traded to the Houston Rockets. And one of the things that was being discussed on the ground in Oklahoma was, he was traded for Chris Paul, was Oklahoma was immensely interested in bringing Chris Paul to the Miami Heat. And they were on the phone with Miami, and Miami was reluctant to give up Tyler Hero. There's something about Hero that Miami is sold on. This is a guy who was the youngest player in NBA history to appear in the NBA Finals. They didn't get the win last year, but Tyler Hero was a holdup. That's on the Miami side. They ended up getting Victor Oladipo, a guy who's wanted to be in Miami. I can tell you since my mother's birthday, August 31st. He's wanted to be there. The Timberwolves were another buyer. The Knicks were another buyer. The Nets at one point, and the Timberwolves. A lot has changed since that discussion about the Nets. A guy named James Harden is at Atlantic Terminal nearby. But ultimately, when it comes down to what happened, it's just a matter of fit. And Kyle Lowry stays in Toronto for at least this year. It was an expiring contract, as I mentioned in your show last time. They were looking to move. Denver moved Gary Harris, as I told you in the show, expiring contracts. This was the trade deadline of expiring contracts. Every man in the NBA named Gary was traded on Thursday.
That's a good one. I like that. One more, and you mentioned Lonzo Ball. So one more little bit on him before we get to the people that actually did move. From the people you spoke to, was this a situation where the Pelicans are starting to believe that they are a playoff team and didn't want to move Lonzo because of that?
They've been playing like one, but I'll add this. I had put out a tweet on Inauguration Day, and I mentioned that the Knicks, the Clippers, as well as, and I didn't mention the Bulls. I got some more information later about it, but I think it was a combination of two things. One, Chicago got better, adding Nikola Vucevic from the Orlando Magic to Chicago. Chicago was concerned about just the big man position. You asked me the question specifically about New Orleans, about realizing whether they were a playoff team. And in all actuality, survey says the Chicago Bulls are actually that, which you mentioned, a playoff team. You look at the lower tier of the NBA's Eastern Conference, you take a cursory look, you see the doldrums between 6 and 8. Chicago was playing beneath their privilege going into the All-Star break. Zach LaVine is the star and the master of the ship, and now he's got some help alongside Kobe White. So I think when you look at the New Orleans Pelicans, Chicago, in my opinion, had the best deal. I'm told that Lonzo Ball did want to go to Chicago. I'm told that Lonzo Ball liked the fit, playing alongside Kobe White, playing alongside Zach LaVine, and more. There is an offseason, again, expiring contract. I know there's been reports about he's looking to get anywhere between 20 to 21 million annually there. And A lot of teams like the New York Knicks can't swoop in and do something in the offseason because they have a plethora of cap space to do so. So this is a situation kind of similarly to Kyle Lowry where, okay, you don't get something done at the trade deadline. That doesn't mean you can't revisit it in the offseason because that's kind of what happened with the Philadelphia 76ers comparatively with Kyle Lowry. There was discussion going into the NBA draft of, trading during the draft. So these are kind of moves that you can do sign and trades in the offseason. You can do sign and trades and make moves heading into this year's draft. I watched the segment before. There's a lot of talent going in, to the NCAA tournament and the guys that, teams that people want to move up to get. So these are revisited conversations that could happen, at a later point.
He is Scoop B, joining me, Keith Irizarry, on Betting Around the Rim. All right, so you mentioned Vucevic. Let's move on from there. I think the sneaky best deal was the Blazers getting Norman Powell. I
Great.
love that addition. Oh, good. Okay, so then you agree. I'm glad that we're on the same page. Why did you like it?
I think it was a good move because when you look at the Portland Trailblazers last season, they succumbed to the prowess of the Los Angeles Lakers, who were just destined to be an NBA champion behind the play of not just LeBron James, but Anthony Davis and others. And I think that I've been using this word a lot on shows. I'm going to bring it here. I think that Powell fortifies a need at the guard position, particularly helping the double-headed monster of C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard, who, in my opinion, Lillard is playing MVP caliber basketball at this point in the season. So I think when you add Powell, a guy who grew up almost like in a farm system in Portland, he's almost like the Portland Trailblazers' Bernie Williams. He came out of nowhere. And, for Yankees fans who are watching, you'll get that reference. He grew up in a farm system and just, played excellent basketball and, earned his way to the next round of Mario Brothers. And I think that next step is, beating King Koopa in the playoffs and, making a run in Portland and doing something special. So, you look at the Portland Trailblazers, they'll have Yusef Nurkic back pretty soon. And, now you can kind of look at the buyout market and the free agency wire and, there's chances to add even more depth, and all you had to do was utilize the trade deadline and, the waiver wire in the NBA.
Yankees references, Mario Brothers references. I like it, Scoop. The Nuggets. I had someone tell me yesterday that Aaron Gordon, JaVale McGee doesn't move the needle for them that much. Did it move the needle for you for the Denver Nuggets?
Everybody has an opinion. What I'll tell you is Aaron Gordon in his time in Orlando was pretty much done. Um, I spoke to some folks within his circle a couple of weeks ago, and was unhappy. And this trade was imminent, and I think when you look at JaVale McGee, a guy who has played for the Nuggets in the past, this is deja vu. This is familiar territory. And one of the things that I think Denver improved on, you made them faster. You added a piece in that can help Jamal Murray. I think when you look at JaVale McGee defensively, now you have some help there, to go against or combat against the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers of the world in the playoffs. Jamal Murray played his tail off in the playoffs last year. And, again, it goes back to just the Lakers. It was their time last year. And now, you got a Nuggets team who was unafraid. You look at Nikola Jokic, who has some help, has some dogs defensively, because Jokic is more of a finesse center who pad stats and put up, not just pad stats, but actually put meaningful stats up and, help in that instance. So I like JaVale McGee for defensive purposes because he's a rim protector. Something that locally here in New York City, we often talk about the need that the Nets have for a rim protector. Denver gets that. So I like the move, and Aaron Gordon is an added piece that I think is beneficial.
Scoop, I want to play a video, some sound for you here and have you react. Here's Frank Vogel, LA Lakers.
I don't know what type of player. I mean, there's always types of players that can help you, but the biggest thing is we just have to get healthy. So my expectation, those conversations are for the front office. My expectation is, we're going to win games with this group, and I believe in the group that we have. So if nothing happens, we're gonna win games. We'll figure out a way to win games during this stretch, and it'll benefit us during the long run. So, I'm not sure if we'll see any changes or not. I would probably, most trade deadline situations, there's a lot of talks that result in nothing, and that's my expectation as a coach.
And that was prior to the trade deadline, and the Lakers did stay pat. Were you surprised?
No. And the biggest pieces that the Lakers had to offer at the trading deadline were a package, surrounding Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who recently signed that deal in the offseason, which was very cap friendly. So they didn't make any moves, but ultimately the Lakers still do need a few pieces.
They do. And one of them could be Andre Drummond. He's out there, and I know I was following your social media, and they're definitely a team that's in on Drummond. When might this domino fall? When might Drummond sign with somebody?
Well, I'll tell you this. Andre Drummond does clear waiver wires today at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. Everyone that I've spoken to over the last 14 to 24 hours have said that Drummond is, that guy that fits a need, particularly with Anthony Davis being hurt, LeBron James being out. And he'll get a fortified, again, I use that word, spot in the Lakers starting lineup at center. And he and LeBron James have a relationship. So all indications are that he will sign with the Lakers. But you look at the Clippers, who added Rajon Rondo. I think he's a magnet, but I expect him to sign with the Los Angeles Lakers. The Nets just added LaMarcus Aldridge as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, about 30 seconds left. Aldridge signing with the Nets. The Brooklyn Nets may have the best lineup this year and may have had the best lineup 5 years ago as well, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, the Lakers were getting the same treatment last year. It just seems to be a lot of Nets hate on social media right now.
Yeah, people just really don't like when teams are willing to go out and spend the money and pick up guys that can help you and help you win now and even down the road as well. Scoop, you're the man. Love chatting with you as always. We'll talk again very soon. There he is, Brandon Scoop B. Robinson. Follow him on Twitter, social media platforms at Scoop B. Got a lot more to do, including